Take it away, Mr. Temporary Chairman.
Welcome everyone to the July 5th, 2023 subcommittee meeting on the to discuss changes to the regulations as part of a yearly update we're going to do, Tira.
Well, we have been doing a yearly update. We were actually going to skip it this year because the 2022 update ended up taking place in January. It took us a little longer. But we have at least one required update to make, which is handed down to us from FEMA. And since we have to do that before the 7th of September, and we had that guy come in about the fence thing, and Alvin called to my attention the thing about, removing the term character. I figured we may as well just bang one out between now and then. And in 24, we can look at another substantive update. So that's where we are with that. Okay. So you just want to take a roll call, Dave? More for my benefit for the minutes.
Sure. Elvin Hill.
Alvin Hill, present.
Brian.
Brian Santos, present.
Jane.
You're on mute, Jane.
Jane Salsi, present. Sorry.
No problem. Kais.
Kais Orlovac, yes, here, sir, present.
John B.
John B, present.
Dave Poplawski, present.
All right, I will pull up the screen share. And then we will proceed as we usually do. I'll go through. I'll just read them. If anybody wants to stop and make observations or make other suggestions or have further discussion, just stop me item per item. Otherwise, I'll just read them and we will assume that they are accepted unless somebody says otherwise. I think that's the easiest way to go. All right. And probably 90% of what we're going to be talking about are going to be alternative phrasing to replace the term character wherever it occurs in the regulation. I did a universal search in the document and I isolated them all. Article 1, Section 2, intent. The intent of these regulations is to protect and promote the public health, safety, and welfare. Currently, it reads to preserve the unique character of the town of Thompson. I propose just striking that. To provide for the best use of land in the town of Thompson, to conserve and stabilize the value of property, to secure safety from fire, flood, environmental damage, and other dangers, to prevent the overcrowding of land, to facilitate adequate provisions for transportation, water, sewerage, schools, recreation, and other public requirements, to conserve and protect existing and potential surface water and groundwater drinking supplies and other natural resources, to prevent unnecessary soil erosion and sedimentation, and to provide adequate housing opportunities for all citizens of Thompson in a manner consistent with soil types, terrain, infrastructure, capacity. Currently says the rural character of the town. I am suggesting the rural areas and developed areas of the town and the current town plan of conservation and development. Does anybody object to those suggested changes to the use of the term character?
Tira?
Yep.
Developed areas, could that be commercial developed areas?
No, I would say that development in this case means areas with infrastructure. If you think developed is not sufficiently clear, I can certainly make that change. So the rural areas and the areas served by public infrastructure.
Tira, how about not character? I just had the word on the tip of my tongue. Try to keep the aesthetics of the town, all over as well as commercial, because instead of having a guy put in a commercial building that's going to look like stucco, whatever, we would like the aesthetics match what our town is. Would that be somewhat appropriate?
It would be appropriate to the spirit of what you're getting after. But we were advised by NECOG that you can't regulate for aesthetics. So I have left aesthetics out except in places where it's specifically allowed. And that is in the village district, which is a historic district, and the design guidelines, which are recommendations as opposed to prescriptions.
Okay,
So that is the reason that you won't see aesthetics widely used as a
well,
as a
I mean,
qualifier.
I get the word character because, character can cover a lot of territory, but, I mean, like this town has some good background,
Mhm.
And stuff. And if we can keep that pretty much when somebody wants to put a business in and he wants to put a building up or something, we kind of want it to conform to what we feel is town of Thompson.
Correct.
That's how I'm looking at it. And me personally, I don't even want to hear the word NECOG because if they have their way, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Well,
That's opinion. That's my opinion.
which I understand, but they still did advise us as a legal matter, and I think we have to take that somewhat seriously.
Yeah,
So, go ahead, Alvin.
Instead of using the word twice, areas, why not rural, developed areas?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was just gonna take out the rural and developed areas. I agree.
Better?
That's better. Just
Yeah.
instead of using areas twice.
It's a
Yeah.
little bit more defined.
I
I think
like
it's
it.
enough. I mean, it shows our intent that we don't have to,
Right.
we don't have to define developed in
Mhm.
the appendix or anything.
Right. This is more of a preamble.
Yep.
Okay,
I have a
moving on.
different- I have a
Go ahead.
different- I have a different question.
Yep.
It's a two-part question. Do we feel that each of the districts has a certain character?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is why the term character gets used so broadly, because it is an easy catch-all phrase for a lot of the things that you want to communicate. And you'll notice as we go through it, in the intent for almost every district, with I think the exception of the downtown Mill District and the Lake District, it references the character of the district without specifically saying what that is.
So that was part two.
So I think what we're after is the specificity of what that means.
Yeah, so my next question, the follow-up to that is, if we remove the word character, does this group believe that our regulations will still allow us to control those 7 districts' character?
Are you asking me or are you
I'm
asking?
asking the group.
Okay.
Well, it
Bri-
does because you have a
Brian.
list of permitted uses,
Yeah, so.
which are based on
so
what
you're
you feel is the
saying yes,
character.
because you're providing the listed permitted uses and you do not need the word character.
But and which
in
you
order-
developed for each district separately. So developing the character of that district. I know we're not supposed to use that word, but
Yep.
using
No,
it.
I'm challenging the removal of the word because I want us to be able to control the 7 districts' character without utilizing that word, which
Word, right.
you did provide an answer that makes sense, that we've listed the uses of those areas. And that would generally, you would think, control the character of those 7 districts.
Right.
Or you're creating individually, each district has its own individual.
Yeah.
Mean would be instead of using the word character. So,
Yeah.
at the Lake District, that has its own type of meaning of what we wanted the intent for it to be. Then you got the rural one and all that. So,
Okay,
but we have to use, we gotta come up with a good, better definition of a word, consider kind of character. That's the thing.
well, I think the phrase which Cindy just, I think reminded us is that the word is uses, right?
Right.
It's not aesthetics, it's not appeal, it's not character, it's not any of those non-descriptive words. It's really the uses that are outlining
Yeah, Brian,
corridors, districts. Yeah, but
yeah, Brian, this is one, the legislator went through this with the same difficulty. That's why they chose in 2129 to use the term physical site characteristics. See, the word character really is reference to people, humans.
yeah,
Physical site characteristics.
That's right. That was the argument.
yeah.
That's the argument.
Okay, understood. I just wanted to make sure.
Would you like to repeat that again, Alvin, what you just said, site specifics?
Well, you'll see as we progress tonight that we're going to be using that word physical site characteristics.
Okay.
Or site characteristics or physical characteristics. We cannot use the word character, but we can describe those areas which we want in the past with physical characteristics.
Yeah, line 5 really that you just brought up on the screen really hits home for me. That's what I was getting at right now. So we can go ahead and continue on
So-
here.
Okay, so continuing, but nobody has any other changes other than the one we just made to tidy up the sentence, the rural and developed areas of the town on that section, right? Moving
I
ahead.
just got one more thing, Tara. I think that the plan of conservation and development has a broad view of every one of the villages and districts, so.
I guess I'm missing the point that you're trying to make with
Is
that.
that relating to Brian's comment on Dave?
To Brian's comment, as well as kind of the developed areas, the way you worded, the way you worded it.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure where you were getting at. Okay, very good. Okay, Article,
Excuse me, Tara, I want to apologize for not getting on earlier. I won't waste the group's time telling everything I did, but I'm on.
that's okay.
Only owe me an apology.
Dave did the official chair duties for the evening. He did the roll call, which is all we need.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so Article 2, Section 9 amendments. I just included E to give you the context. In considering any petition to amend the zoning regulations, yada, 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 further, the commission shall make the following determinations. Number 5 from that list. Any proposal to revise the zoning map has comprehensively considered the size and physical characteristics, which is fine, of the subject area. Currently says the character and supply of land currently zoned in the subject classification and the effective proposal on existing land uses in the surrounding areas. I have suggested the substitution of the designated uses, and I think that's to Brian's point.
It's exactly to my point. Thank you.
That's good.
That's perfect.
Perfect.
All right, hearing no objection to that substitution, moving on to Article 3A, Section 5 exemptions. This is starting to deal with the fence thing. A, the following structures shall not require the issuance of a zoning permit under these regulations under number 1 fences, see definition of fence, that are less than or equal to 7 feet in height. I'm also referring people to the new line of text that I'm planning on adding, which is for the regulations governing fences, see Article 4, Section 4, which we will get to in order. Article 3 is 3C, special permits, Section 1, intent. The intent of the special permit regulations is to provide a comprehensive review, including a public hearing of the proposed plan for the layout of the building, structure, or use as in relationship to the topographical, geological, and other natural features of the land and of the impact of the use or uses upon the environment, health, safety, and welfare of the members of the community. It is intended to ensure that the design and layout of the site and the proposed use or uses will constitute suitable and appropriate development, currently says in character with the neighborhood, and I have substituted consistent with the intent of the district, and will not result in a decrease in property values or be a detriment to the present and potential use of the area in which it is to be located. Any objection to that substitution?
I think it's good.
I think so.
Okay, moving on. All right, so you guys might want to discuss this one because this is the only new concept introduced. Article 4, Section 4, general provisions for all districts. Under number 4, fences, adding as letter A, a fence 7 feet in height or less shall be set back a minimum of 1 foot from the property line. In cases where the unique physical properties of a site render it necessary to have a smaller setback, the fence may be installed if the abutting property owner agrees in writing to the installation. So to me, the open questions here are, well, really the open question is 1 foot the correct dimension?
Not necessarily. Because
Um,
some might have to they could request 2 feet.
Right, but the minimum would be a 1 foot setback, as we're saying. In other words, you can't be any closer than 12 inches to your neighbor's property to allow for maintenance purposes. I mean, 1 foot's a narrow area, but once you get beyond that, the bigger we make that setback, the closer it becomes to something like a taking.
Right, okay, you're right there, but if the person wants to put the fence on the property line, straight down the property line, no, the golden rule back in the day was he was allowed 1 foot to maintain the fence back in the day. But, you know, things have changed over time. Everybody gets upset. So, you know, I think that should be an agreement. Use the 1 foot minimum, 1 foot minimum, but you know, if the neighbor, it will allow him an extra foot to do what he has to do, then that has to be done between the two neighbors. We shouldn't be dictating that.
No, I think this one is pretty good. The 1 foot minimum and anything closer, I like the agreement in writing. I think that will clear up any problems that anybody would have. If the person does not agree, the abutting neighbor does not agree, what would be the next step?
That is an excellent question, Jane, and I don't really know what the answer is.
There's no answer.
I don't think there is, but I mean, I'm just for the sake of trying to ward off any problems between neighbors. Would it have to come before us or another committee in the town?
Yeah, I don't want to control any of this. I think you should just say a fence 7 feet in height or less shall be set back with a minimum of 1.5 feet from the property line and delete the rest of it. I don't agree that a neighbor should be able to tell me where I can put a fence that is smaller than 7 feet. And
I agree with you, Brian, on that. I'm just thinking of, that's why I like the fact with agreeing and putting it in writing, because that clears up any problems. I have a fence that is literally on my property line and my neighbors put it up with my agreement to it that was discussed, so we didn't have a problem. But I can understand if somebody wants to do that and the neighbors don't agree.
Yeah, and I think the guy who brought the question in front of the commission in the first place is sort of an example, although he's asking essentially for just what we're doing in the first
Clarification.
statement.
Yeah,
Right.
clarification.
But
So
I could
think this is
envision,
Good. I think this is good.
We only regulate. We
Yeah.
don't, we can't
don't-
dictate, we can only regulate. So if we regulate it, like Brian says, 1.5, then it has to be, the rest of it is on the two neighbors. Let them figure it out. If they want to go to court over it, that's their business. We
I
can't.
think the 1 foot is good. I don't think it should be 1.5 feet.
Well, it doesn't matter, Jane, 1 or 1.5, but if we could go what, say 1 or 1.5, depending on whatever the guy's putting up whoever wants to put his fence up on his property. If he wants to do 1 foot or 1.5, keep it like that. But anything more than that, let the neighbors handle it. But we can't
I mean-
dictate.
You mean anything less than that, John, right?
What's
Yeah.
that?
I said you mean anything less than
Less.
1 foot.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's why the agreement in writing, so that would clear up any problems.
I'm fine with leaving the second half now. I just suggest 1.5 feet. Just make it a little bit more rigid to, give it a little bit more room. Because the gentleman that came in, he was really worried about like, okay, now that guy's got to come on my property. And, from the regulations that I've been reading a couple, there's one in Clinton. And then another couple others that said 1.5 feet seems to be more standard.
Okay, yeah, I saw a couple that said 1, but either way is fine with me as well. The second sentence to me, what I was envisioning when I wrote it was I can imagine somebody who's got a big boulder that, doesn't necessarily prevent the installation of a fence at all, but might, well, no, because that wouldn't make any sense, because if it was big
No.
enough to reduce the
Yeah, that-
setback, yes,
Yeah, the boulder's not reducing the setback, right? So
right.
it would only make it greater. I'm cool
correct.
with that second sentence now that I've reread it. So as long as if it becomes 1 foot, then they would have to ask permission. I got it.
May I say something?
Please.
Okay, so getting back to what John said about it being in the old day about recommendation for 1 foot. In my 5.5 years of being there, when anybody approached me for a fence under, at that time, 6 feet, now 7 feet, I always said you can do it on the boundary line, but out of respect for your neighbor, you probably should go 1 foot. That was my suggestion. I've
Yeah.
set it up until, this forever, every time anybody asks me. That's my
Okay.
first question. My second, not question, but statement. My second statement, I think if you go 1.5, I think now you really are imposing
Yeah,
on a person's property right. That's my
Yep.
second. The third one is, and I didn't tell Tara in time enough to go back, but are you going to now require a zoning permit for a fence? Because how am I going to know people are putting up a fence 7 feet and under without a zoning permit? And then a neighbor sees this new regulation, calls me up and says, how come that person put a fence on my property line when it's supposed to be 1 foot now?
I think that it is the same dilemma that comes up with anything that is an as of right use.
Correct.
We don't know until somebody complains, but when somebody complains, you can refer to what the town has set up as guidelines, right? And
Well, it's not a
then,
guideline, this is a regulation.
well, regulations. I guess I'm just referring to it as a guideline as opposed to seeking a permit. Anytime there's an as of right use, there's still some set of rules of engagement to help people be good neighbors, and that's what this is. So once a complaint is made, yes, I think you have to investigate and
It's too
say,
late. It's too late because the person went to the expense of the fence. And no one is going to take that fence down without one heck of a battle. And do we have time for one heck of a battle between neighbors? And it does not, at that point, it does not become a civil dispute. It becomes a dispute of this person did not comply with the regulations. So that is our dispute. It's not a civil dispute.
okay, so that is an excellent point. So why have we not previously required a zoning permit for fences? Is that statutory, or is that we just say you're free to put up a fence because good fences make good neighbors?
I don't agree with requiring a permit to put up a fence.
Then
There's
how
a
are you
rule-
going to control this, Jane?
Cindy,
No.
I don't believe in controlling everything. We cannot foresee what is going to happen all the time. We can sit here until the cows come home trying to figure out, well, this problem could happen. Well, that
Okay.
could happen.
Kira,
Okay.
I don't
So then-
believe a permit is necessary
can-
to put up a fence.
So then why do it?
Why do what?
Why put this in that you have to put a fence up?
Because this
7
is a
feet under?
guideline. This
Hello,
is the
can-
guideline if there
Well, if-
is a problem.
Kira,
if-
can I say
Yeah,
something?
yeah, go ahead, Alvin, go ahead.
Jumping ahead, which I like to do, in definitions. Now let me write, I've rewritten this several times. Please listen. Fence, in parentheses, residential, because you can have commercial fences. Well, anyway, residential fence. A structure intended for a division of a property line, no more in height than 7 feet tall. That, the reason being, because that's part of the building code. Over that, you need engineering data for a wind zone. Comma, while maintaining a space of at least, and tonight we're talking about 1.5 feet, that's fine, for maintenance, and I've added to an adjoining house lot. I mean, if you had 100 acres and nobody was around you, anyway, continuing, a building permit is not required other than swimming pool barriers, but a zoning permit requires approval. That would
There you
be
go.
my definition of a residential fence.
And that doesn't imply that you have to charge them for it. I mean, because it's $100. It's like, who wants to add $100 onto the cost of their fence? But there's got to be, and I'm sorry to use the word control, Jane, but it is regulations. I don't like that word either, but it is regulations. So how is this, again, how is this managed? Is that a better word?
So I guess the question that I
Or
would
compliant.
pose is what creates the higher burden? The burden that the guy brought to us, which is that without these published guidelines, neighbors have no recourse except to argue with one another.
Okay, so you're using two different words though, Tara. Is this a regulation that the homeowner has to comply with or fear of getting a violation? Or is this a guideline which I have nothing to do with? It said, oh, well, we're asking him to do one foot away, but guess what? He didn't.
I see that this is a regulation.
Okay, so it's not a guideline. It's a regulation. They have to stay 1 foot from the boundary. Fine. Where is the oversee on it? Where is the compliance part of it? When somebody comes in and complains, he put the fence on my property line. I read in the regulations, it's a requirement that he has to go a foot. What happens?
You know, I may be naive on this, but I think if we added, just kept going on the sentence, and I mean, at the end, and I'm trying to address the taking of somebody's property to put the fence. If the owners agree in writing, the installation of the fence can be on the property line, and then you're not taking anybody's property. And if you have it in writing that they agreed, it resolves all the issues.
Tara, just my opinion. I agree with Cindy. I mean, this A is a new reg, you know, totally new reg, because currently B and C are A and B. And I agree with Cindy that you have to be with it being a reg, you almost need to see where the property line is, and you'd have to see the fence drawn in if we're going to try to hold this up and hold this to the town. I mean, we've got probably thousands of miles of fence in this town, and we had one person come in. I'm not won over that we should be adding A at all.
I'm okay with whatever the consensus of this commission is. I will observe that when the guy came in, everybody was kind of nodding along like, you know, this is something that makes sense. We should look at this. Now we are looking at it regardless right now. It may be that the consensus of the commission is we don't want to touch it and leave it as it is with just, you don't need a zoning permit for a fence under 7 feet high, and you don't need a zoning permit for a mailbox, and we take this out and we leave those two things there. I think all of those arguments have merits and detractions. And I will present to the commission at the July regular meeting, whichever version of this you are most comfortable with. Now, you don't really take motions and votes in a subcommittee meeting. But I think you can each individually indicate your preference. It's not the same as a motion and a vote, because the motion and the vote's going to come at the regular meeting, but it'll give me a sense of where to go here.
What we haven't really, from what we just talked here, excuse me,
Yep,
is
go ahead.
that under the fence thing, we haven't even defined what kind of fence the property owner wants to put up. Is it gonna be a chain link fence? Is it gonna be a stockade fence? Or is it gonna be a bond board fence or whatever? I mean, there are quite a few different variations of fences. And it all depends on what the neighbor who wants to put up. Like me, I put up a stockade fence, or I might do a bond board fence, not a chain link. But it all depends on what district you're in too. I think that would make a big difference. Do you want a chain link fence going up along the property line in the downtown Mill District on any one of them houses? It's okay out in the RRAD area or here or there, but when you get into a closed district, where we have some, a chain link fence ain't the best thing either. So there's
Well,
another thing.
Again, the only place where we can dictate aesthetics is where a historic village district is in play, and that the only historic village district we have is the Thompson Common Village District.
A case in point. Well, that's kind of what I was driving at, but it all depends on the neighbor that wants to put the fence up. Didn't we just have this, that some neighbor had a fence that was being up, it was a chain link and it was so many feet this way and he didn't like it?
That's exactly why we're here, because a citizen brought the point up, and so we agreed to look at it for the update, which is what we're doing right now.
Well, the only thing is as far as I'm concerned, is do the 1 foot rule and let the two neighbors decide between themselves. And like Randy said and Brian said, let them decide between the two of them what if I went up to Brian and say, Brian, I'm going to put up a wooden stockade fence. You got any problems with it, or what is your feeling about it? And then we go. I'm just using that as an example, Brian.
Yeah. Sorry, John. I thought you were done. Can I share my screen? I wrote something else up. Man,
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
All set. Go ahead.
This is what I wrote.
I got to get better bifocals.
Sorry, you need me to zoom it in. Sorry.
Oh, I can read it. That's all right. I mean, I read everything else. I'll read this too. A fence that is 7 feet in height or under, measured from the ground to the top of the fence, is not considered a structure and does not require a zoning permit. It may be placed as close to the property line as you wish. However, if that fence is within 1 foot of the property line, disputes may happen. Be sure to communicate with your neighbor before installation and during the repair process to ensure you are in agreement. Unfortunately, clear communication doesn't solve every fence dispute.
But it goes a long ways if the communication is before the thing is done rather than after.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not requiring a permit for anyone to do that. But I'm just saying, well, it does happen. And if it's
But
not
Brian-
1 foot,
Yeah,
And-
Brian. Brian, you cannot say it is a structure.
Fence is, yeah, you're right. It is a
It
structure.
is
but
a structure. And I'd like to add one more thing. Fences have been in the building code for at least 15 years. The town of Thompson's had all kinds of fences put in. Have we heard any squawks?
Just one.
I think what Tara had put in originally is the way we should go with this. the 7 feet, 1 feet from the property line, anything different, the neighbors need to have it in writing. That clarifies it all.
Yeah, I know, but to Cindy's point,
Yeah, I think there's a
There's no-
compromise here. Can you close your screen? I'm gonna go back to the other.
While you're doing that, just to answer Brian's question or somebody's question. There have been many disputes in my office about fences,
absolutely, I can imagine.
and a lot of them are civil. So I just say it's civil, and there's
All
nothing I
right,
can do about it.
so let's see if we can create something that is more guideline-y. Fence 7 feet in height or less shall, okay, so shall be is obviously regulatory.
Karen,
B,
may I say something?
of course.
The last sentence, last part of the sentence, the fence may be installed if the abutting property owner agrees in writing to the installation. The fence may be installed as the abutting property owner agrees in writing. Basically, what we need to say is that it has to be in writing. Has to be.
Hold on, I think I've got it. Well, I think I've
Okay.
got it here.
Can I just, before you say that, Tara,
Go ahead.
sometimes it's just not one property owner. You have two sides, you have a back,
Yeah.
there could be a house
Yeah,
in the
It
back.
would be all of them.
So, and that's a lot of work for someone to do. I think it's a lot to ask. That they have to have the property owner's approval. Because when that fence is installed and they come and complain to me and I read them that regulation and they're gonna say, well, he never came and asked me and got it in writing that he could do this. I'm just giving you the bad scenarios, guys.
Keep that out. Just if the guy wants to put the property up, let's just stick with the 1 foot rule, 7 feet, no more than 7 feet high. And, if the neighbor don't like it, well, long as we don't look, we're just regulating that 1 foot is what you need to do for maintenance, no more than 7 feet high, 7 feet or less. I mean, if you got that simplified to a reg like that, then, there is, it takes the pressure off the ZEO and stuff and all that. So,
No,
if you want to take the neighbor to court, that's on you.
it doesn't take the pressure off the town. If you're not installing something in there that person has to comply in writing with, if you're saying this is a regulation, it doesn't take the onus off the town. Because if they do it wrong and the neighbor's upset, they can come back at the town and say, well, this person never got a zoning permit for this. How is this person supposed to know they're supposed to get a zoning permit? So-
It's required for a zoning permit.
Well, it doesn't say that anyplace, Alvin.
Statute, building code. Hello?
No, building code under 7 feet, you do not need a permit, a building permit. So then you don't need a zoning permit.
Yes, you need a zoning permit.
No, I have never given a zoning permit for a fence.
Well,
Yeah,
then
we specifically exempt fences under 7 feet high. That is a specific exemption.
Yeah, that was taken from the old regulation too, I think.
Exactly.
And I will agree with what Tira has written here, just make it 1 foot instead of 1.5, just to give it a little bit more leeway.
Okay, so I'll read back what I read, what I just wrote to change this. Under fences, a fence 7 feet in height or less does not require a zoning permit. Therefore, there is no regulation governing specific setbacks. In order to minimize the potential for disputes between neighbors, the commission highly recommends a minimum setback of 1.5 feet or 1 foot, whichever.
1 foot.
All right, so let's go back to 1 foot, just for giggles.
I am giggling. I'm sorry.
In order to minimize the potential for disputes between neighbors, the commission highly recommends a minimum setback of 1 foot from the property line. In cases where the unique physical properties of a site, and who knows what they might be, render it necessary to have a smaller setback, it is recommended that the owner requests that the abutting property owner agrees in writing to the installation.
That sounds good, Tara.
but
Sounds
But you're
good.
still saying, but that still says you can put the fence on the boundary line.
It does, it does effectively say that, but I think the only alternative is a regulation, and a regulation means a permit,
I
right?
agree.
Isn't that what we're saying?
That's exactly right. And
Exactly.
the question comes down to, do we want to make a regulation or not? I think I don't want to.
No, I don't want to either.
I don't want to have to just follow it through either. Just,
Yeah.
just kidding. I'm giggling now, so sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, like I say, there are pluses and minuses to making a regulation or not making a regulation.
Sure. I mean,
It's
this is only a
where's
recommendation.
your gut taking you?
I mean, a recommendation doesn't hold up in court, but hey, where are we going with this?
Yeah, we also recommend that people come in for an informal presentation to the commission before they make an application.
They
We
don't
can't
always do it.
require it, but a
Yeah.
lot of people do it.
Right, right.
No, I think this is good the way it's written now.
I like
Okay,
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Same here. It's good.
Okay, all right.
Tira,
Yes, sir.
Our
B.
meeting adjourned?
B, let's focus on B. A fence or structure over 7 feet in height shall meet. Why is that?
That's been in there.
Yes, I know.
B and
Doesn't
C,
say it's 7
because
foot.
that's where you do need a zoning permit, is for over 7 feet.
Well, not only do you need a zoning permit, you also need a building permit
Right, right.
and engineering. If that's 7'1", you need engineering. It's very expensive.
So what are you suggesting here?
A fence or structure over 7 feet requires a building permit and engineering. That will set everybody's, I mean, that it'll just merge and marry with building code,
It would also require a zoning permit too.
of course.
Yeah, well, you didn't say that, so. Just,
Is the verbiage in there?
What'd you say, John? I'm sorry.
Is that verbiage of a zoning permit in with that? Because then that makes that complete. Building permit, and then you need a zoning permit at the same time. And engineering, whatever, to anything over 7 feet, like Alvin said. That makes sense. So it's up to the owner that wants to do a fence 8 feet high or over 7 feet, 8 feet. That
It
means,
cost them a fortune.
well, that's his problem. That's not ours. But we're just saying to you, if you want to do it, it's up to you, but this is what's going to be required of you for you to do it.
I will just
That's
point
how I-
out that in most cases, not quite all, the commission has chosen not to use directions for other town offices,
right,
right? Which is what this would be. Now, that's not universal, because in the section on permit requirements, it does say you go through the building office first and then it comes to but that's just describing the process.
Then follow the process.
It could be that it's more clarifying to, to include a note here. Be advised that a fence of this height also requires a building permit. I don't think that that is prescriptive per se on the part of the commission. I mean, if you think that that is of help to someone looking at the regulations, I think it's worth including.
yeah, I agree. I don't think building office would have any problems with that.
I can go either way, because it does have to go through the building office first.
I mean, if they came to me for a zoning permit, I would say you have to go up to the building office, so.
Yeah. Tell them how to use the elevator to go up first.
I certainly can do that, John.
I will say we have not done that in the past. Like Tira just said, we did not reference other departments specifically. Because it gets confusing.
Right.
But in this particular case, in support of Alvin, I could go either way with this one.
Well, yeah, but I mean, why does everything have to fall on us? Or our zoning enforcement officer or our planning and development director? it seems like everything falls back on us.
Well, we
There's-
just want it to be as clear as possible for the
I
user. So,
understand. That's what we need to do is what, if we can get it clarified, okay. It doesn't hurt to say, okay, you gotta go upstairs. There's the elevator, go up, go all the way down to the other end, the last door on the right before the assessor's office, get what you need, then come back down. Bingo.
Yeah,
I'm going to suggest one change here, though, and shall meet the building setbacks for a structure of less than 200 square feet, which is 5 feet setbacks from sides and rear, as opposed to whatever it is for over 200 square feet. I think it goes up to 10, right?
yeah, I was just gonna say, end it with setbacks, period. Why define it at all?
Correct. Brian's correct on that. I have to agree with you, Brian.
Just say we meet building setbacks, period, because the setbacks change in each district from time to time based upon our evaluation. We'd have to go back and look at this one.
Well,
No,
that's
I
true, but
agree,
in every district, the smallest margin of setback is for a structure of less than 200 square feet.
Okay, that's fine. I think this probably comes up a lot, like Cindy was saying, so I don't mind adding building permit and a little bit more clarity to these fences, because people put up fences all of the time. And this will at least outline it crystal clear on what's happening.
Okay, so as it reads right now, letter B, a fence or structure over 7 feet in height requires both a zoning permit and a building permit and shall meet building setbacks for a structure of less than 200 square feet.
I would reverse zoning permit and building permit, put building permit first, then zoning permit.
Thank you.
Yep, you could do that.
Well, that's the correct procedure. You have to get that before you get the zoning permit.
Yep,
Correct.
that's a good catch, John.
Totally correct.
Okay, all right. I think we've flogged that horse.
We're crushing it tonight.
Oh yeah, baby. Okay, here we go. Article 4A, Rural Residential Agricultural District. Article 4A, Section 1, Intent. A, the intent of the Rural Residential Agricultural District, hereafter RRAD, is to provide for residential use consistent with the furtherance of agricultural and rural businesses while maintaining, and I'm just suggesting cutting out that rural character, while protecting the natural resources of the town, because you've already referred to residential, agricultural, and rural uses. So rural character was redundant anyway.
Perfect.
And the other thing is to protect the natural resources. Any
Good.
objections?
No, I
Plus-
think great.
Sounds good.
Okay. We are crushing it. Article 4B, Common Residential District, Section 1, Intent. And this is the one where I made the most substantive changes because I think we have clarified internally the intent of this district quite a bit since we adopted this. The intent of the Common Residential District, CRD, is to provide for residential use reflecting the availability of public sewer and water utilities, thus reducing development pressure on more rural districts within the town. Thoughts?
I think it sounds pretty good.
Reflecting the availability of public sewer and water utilities. I think that's great. Because you take it, you're taking the pressure off.
Yeah,
Off
I
the
mean,
plate.
that is literally the intent.
Correct, yeah.
So, okay, I just want to be sure we're all good.
You couldn't get that any more defined.
All right. Flying. Article 4C, Thompson Common Village District, TCVD, included the whole section here just so we could be totally clear. The purpose of the Thompson Common Village District, TCVD, is to encourage the protection, enhancement, and use of buildings and structures having historic and/or aesthetic value, representing or reflecting elements of the cultural, social, economic, and architectural history of Thompson, discussed in the most current version of the Plan of Conservation and Development, POCD. The authority for the increased level of design detail scrutiny comes from CGS Section 8-2J. In accordance with Section 8-2J, the Commission shall consider the design, placement, relationships, and compatibility of structures, plantings, signs, roadways, street hardware, and other objects in public view. The Commission shall encourage the conversion, conservation, and preservation of existing buildings and sites in a manner that maintains the historic value. And instead of distinctive character, I am suggesting architectural profile and landscape of the TCVD.
Oh, that's two good words you just put in there.
Bingo.
I try to do my best work for you guys, always. All right, so we're still in the TCVD, so you'll see me start to use aesthetics here. Article 4C, Section 4, Design Review Guidelines. A, construction and development of new buildings or renovation of existing buildings for commercial or mixed uses within the TCVD shall be permitted in a manner that will not be detrimental to existing neighborhood aesthetics by adhering to consistent design standards and guidelines. New construction or substantial renovation shall be consistent with the scale of neighborhood buildings or structures in terms of building height, width, proportion of height to width, proportion of wall area to door, and window opening areas and other dominant site features. And by the way, this stuff in strikeout is not meant to be deleted. I had copied and pasted all that in there and realized we didn't need all that stuff in this discussion. So that's not a strikeout in the text.
Another good little word you put in.
Yeah, I like aesthetics, and then it gives like the definition of the word.
Yeah, I
After
mean,
height, proportion, width, it seems all good.
oh, that's good. That's great. You're doing good, kid. Keep going.
All right, I like to make you guys happy. E, design review guidelines and definitions for building structures and site plans. And just under number 1, we had the pesky term. So I have changed architectural character to architectural consistency. The applicant shall demonstrate that proposed buildings or structures provide visual linkages to nearby buildings using preferred elements of the design guidelines, Appendix A. Applicant plans shall provide a cohesive architectural concept plan, complete building evaluations and specification of materials and other details, including facade modulation and articulation, window and doorway patterns, fenestration, trim and moldings, grills and railings, roof lines, lighting, and signage. Preferred architectural elements are shown in Appendix A.
Good.
Perfect.
All right, moving right along. Article 4D, Business Development District, BDD. 4D, Section 1, Intent. I'm not sure. I don't think that's really a number 4. I think that's just a transcription error. The purpose of the Business Development District, BDD, consistent with the current plan of conservation and development, is to provide for meaningful and realistic commercial utilization of appropriate areas within Thompson for a complementary and integrated mixture of employment, commerce, entertainment, and civic uses while preserving the rural landscape of Thompson.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, we could still have adult entertainment in East Thompson. That would be a good place for it.
And only in the BDD, and as was determined, there's only one place, and it's only if the Heenigs ever decide they want to be out of the golf course business.
There you go. or the stock car business.
In fact, John was logged in earlier. Is he still here? No, he's not. That's too bad. I could have asked him if he has plans. All right. Article 5A, Section 1, Development Standards for Home Occupations and Neighborhood Limited Enterprises under A. Home occupations, number 3, sub paragraph A. Home occupations meeting the following standards of operation shall be permitted. So currently reads interruption, congestion, or change to the character of the residential uses of the neighborhood. So I have suggested Oh, no, it was interruption, congestion, or change to the character of the neighborhood. I have suggested interruption to the residential uses of the neighborhood, because that is what you're trying to avoid in terms of appearance, noise, traffic, vehicular parking, and employee customer congregation resulting from the operation of the home occupation shall be minimized. I breezed through that. Did I breeze through that too fast? Are
No,
we
it
good?
sounds good.
Okay,
Good, go with it.
okay. And then we've got a big skip ahead to Article 5A, Section 6, wireless communications. Under E, site plan requirements. All applications to develop a wireless telecommunications facility as a permitted use or special permit shall meet the site plan requirements listed in Article 3A, Section 4B of these regulations. In addition, the following information shall be submitted for each application where applicable. The commission may require independent engineering, technical review of submitted materials at the sole expense of the applicant. And in number 14, if located on or within 1/4 mile radius of a property listed on the National Register of Historic Places, preservation of the historic and or architectural, and I've swapped out integrity for character of the landscape or any structure.
Yeah, that's where you could actually almost ask the people when they're putting it up for whatever. They got, you'll see, I've seen them, I don't know if anybody else, Brian probably have seen it, where they take a telecommunication tower and they make it look like a tree. So it blends in with the integrity of the area.
Dan?
The first time I saw one of those was right off Route 2 in Massachusetts when I used to live in Gardner and commute into Cambridge. So it's great. They made it look like a tree, but it's literally hundreds of feet taller than the surrounding trees.
Well,
It's insane that anybody thinks that
Well,
that's camouflaging it.
there's one up there in Dudley at Dresser Hill Farms. It's a flagpole, but it's actually a telecommunication.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and there's one down in Chaplin, right off of Route 198. You know, there's quite a few of these communications that look like flagpoles or, you know, something similar to that. But, you know, it depends on the character of the.
No. It depends on the architectural integrity.
Oh, you got me started. Here I was doing pretty good not to use that word. But the integrity of it is that you have to kind of like hopefully we can get it to blend in with the surroundings.
Hey, John.
Yep. Everybody else happy with that, folks?
Yeah.
Okay. Still under wireless telecommunications under F, ancillary buildings. All ground level buildings, boxes, or cabinets shall be surrounded by an 8-foot high chain link or comparable fence and shall be planted with evergreen shrubs and trees at least 6 feet high or in a density sufficient to obscure lights and other visually objectionable items and satisfactory to the commission, as it will safeguard or enhance the privacy and appearance of the adjoining properties as opposed to character.
Very good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So, yeah, whatever, and also whatever the siting council requires too, sometimes you have to follow that.
Yeah, the siting council actually governs this. We almost didn't even include this section
Right.
because the siting council
They govern where-
overrides the
They
local.
govern where it's going to be.
Yeah.
They don't govern the fences.
Do we have to put in that they need a permit if they put an 8-foot high chain link fence in?
I was wondering
Just
that same
kidding.
thing too. You're gonna make them get an engineering plan.
It-
I
It kinda makes what we
seriously
did.
hope that they would have an engineer involved in the construction of a telecommunications tower.
As a
Oh,
building.
they would, but
As a building official for 25 years, there isn't an engineer in Connecticut that doesn't realize that a fence 8-foot high needs not only engineering, wind load structure, but also a building permit.
I'm pretty sure Dave made that suggestion tongue in cheek anyway.
No, he's laughing in the background.
It was totally.
Yeah. Okay, moving right along. Article 5B, Section 1, Conservation Subdivisions. Jane, I did this one for you. I struck alternately known as cluster subdivisions.
Thank you.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
Yep,
But later on in the paragraph, the regulations governing the creation of conservation subdivisions are intended to provide for increased flexibility balanced by increased control in the development of land so as to facilitate the preservation of open space, natural resources, and recreational uses within the community. And I just struck community character because I don't think community character says anything there that isn't said up further in the
I
in the
agree.
intent statement.
Yep,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just
Yeah.
extra words.
yep.
Any other feelings there?
Yeah, she's just yupping.
Yep, yep.
Another gold star, Terry, good.
Oh, my forehead is covered in gold stars, just like David Bowie. Okay, and I just want to call your attention to this. We don't have to discuss this at all. This has been dictated to us, but I just want to be clear. Everybody understands these are required edits. In 5B, Section 2, flood damage prevention requirements. We are going to have to update the ordinance as well. That is not the job of this commission and is much more complex. But CT Deep on behalf of FEMA just said that we had to change these terms. The report titled Flood Insurance Study for Windham County, Connecticut, dated September 7th, 2023, which is when they're going to adopt that. And then the strike of the flood hazard boundary and floodway maps, just leaving the flood insurance rate maps. And it's essentially the same in item number 5. Even if nothing else passes at the August meeting, these two things have to pass. So just be aware. Okay, Article 5B, Section 5, parking standards under C, electrical vehicle charging stations. 1, electric vehicle charging stations are subject to the following design criteria. Just under A, charging stations in public parking areas should be able to be readily identified by electric car users, but they should be designed for compatibility with the, instead of character, design and use of the site.
Perfect.
Spot on.
Simple, simple. All right, so now we've got a few suggestions and definitions. This first one actually comes from Alvin, so I'll read the whole thing. Under accessory apartment, currently reads, space allotted within an owner-occupied single-family dwelling that is designed or intended for separate use by one or more persons occupying that allotted space. The habitable space shall be interconnected to the primary dwelling, shall be properly conditioned as a dwelling, and shall be serviced by the same septic system and electrical service as the primary dwelling. That's where it currently ends. Alvin has suggested adding the maximum net floor area shall be not less than 30% of the net floor area of the principal dwelling, or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less, which is fine if you guys like that. I will just come in and point out that as a rule, since we started doing these updates, we've shied away as a group dictating dimensional maximums, minimums, except in very limited circumstances. But
Yeah,
if
I
you
don't
want to
think it's
include that
needed.
here, we can.
I don't think it's, no offense, Alvin. I know you do a lot of hard work, but I don't think it's needed.
Well, it's part of Public Act 2129. That's all I'm saying.
So that's
It's already in statute.
this particular line is
Yes.
dictated in statute? Because I thought what you were saying about Public Act 2129 was just that it allows the ZEO
To the property.
to inspect it for correctness.
Yeah, I think the maximum net floor area, blah, 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 should be stricken. We don't need that in there.
So I don't know what the point of putting that in there is. And what are you talking about? Public Act 2129 requiring an annual permit reapplication?
Yep.
I don't get that. For what?
Just to make sure that, that they don't have exceeding the use of that particular accessory apartment.
No, I don't know. It's too restrictive. I
I think more than the restriction, is it a good use of Cindy's time to be annually inspecting an approved accessory apartment? I think that's the bigger question.
I don't think it is, and I don't think it should be. It's that she's already got enough to do.
Thank you.
I was just
And you
about to
do
say,
it well, and you do
Good.
it well, Cindy, and I'm
you.
very appreciative of it.
Thank you.
I was just about to ask Cindy what her feelings are on that.
Well, I can simplify it like this. I have a hard enough time trying to remember to renew the gravel operation permits. So I take it from there. I think that would be impossible to do that on the hours that ZEO has in the town.
Could we refer that back to the building inspector's office?
He has less
Uh,
hours than I do.
Unless I'm mistaken, the only requirement for, and I could be wrong about this because it's not our area specifically. The only requirement for annual inspections is by the fire marshal,
Leftville,
and
yeah.
it's for multifamily units of 4 units or more. The threshold,
More.
the
I think
threshold
it's-
might be 3, but I think it's
three.
4.
I think it's 3. 3 units or more.
It is 3.
Yeah, we don't need to be doing this or have Cindy doing it.
Is that the general feeling? It's understanding that it's not Alvin's feeling. What are the rest of you guys? I just want to be sure before I strike this that everybody's comfortable.
All right,
Alvin,
yeah,
let me ask Alvin a
I
question.
think we need to strike the 1,000 feet, and I don't think that it
can
would
I,
be necessary to inspect it annually unless there's a complaint issued.
Good point, John, Randy. Yes, that's a good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was gonna say the same thing. Unless a complaint is issued, it should not be something that is required to be done.
And that would still come under the fire marshal, correct?
No, because this is less than 3 apartments. It's just an accessory. He only does 3 or more, John.
Oh, why can't we have that changed?
But that's,
It has
Well-
nothing to do with us.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not us.
Okay,
Fire marshal does not take direction from the planning and zoning
Yeah.
commission.
I didn't say we had to, for us to direct him or anything, but if it could be changed where he has, does 2 apartments or more, that to make sure it meets everything, that should be the fire marshal's job.
I'm
but
pretty
it's not
sure that
our-
everything that comes down to the fire marshal is a
Statute.
specific statutory requirement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
accessory.
it's not
I'm
our
just throwing it out.
requirement to do it, to bring it to their attention. It's not our job to do that.
Tira,
Yes, Alvin.
let me read section 2129, just so everyone's where I got this information.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
This is effective January 1st, 2022. Any zoning regulation adopted pursuant to section 8-2, which our regulations do, as amended by this act, doesn't say may, it says shall. 1, 2, and 3. I'll read 2 and 3. Allowed accessory apartments to be attached to or located within the proposed existing principal dwelling or detached from the proposed or existing principal dwelling and located on the same lot as such dwelling. Semicolon. 3, set a maximum net floor area for an accessory apartment of not less than 30% of the floor area of the principal dwelling or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less, except that such regulations may allow a larger net floor area for such apartments. That's why I put in that maximum floor area.
So,
Yep, that's on page
Cindy,
13 of 28. I just found it, Alvin, too.
Cindy, I got a question on this. As this
Uh-huh.
reads, in your opinion, if I wanted to do an accessory, could a person take a current house, put an addition on that's bigger than what the house is and call the house an accessory apartment?
No, I don't think so, because the accessory has to be less square footage than the primary dwelling.
Yeah, that's not written in there right now. That's what
Yeah, it
Alvin's
is.
proposing, right? So the way it's written now, I'm just trying to get to what we have right now.
Okay,
As we have it now, someone could, like I said, put an addition onto a house bigger and call the existing house the accessory apartment.
I suppose theoretically that's possible, but we
Oh,
don't
yes,
have
yeah.
any reason that we would prevent somebody from making their house larger.
right. It's the accessory detached that has to be smaller than the primary.
Okay,
Yeah. So I don't think we did anything specific on, I don't have regulations in front of me on attached accessory dwellings, yeah, apartments, whatever.
So in other words, if they put it on an accessory building and it's considered like a detached, that means it's, you only got like a, what do you call it? Like a breezeway going from one to the other. Would that be
That-
correct?
No, that's attached. Because it's attached by a breezeway. Detached is,
I mean,
We were very permissive in the accessory dwelling units themselves.
right,
So it's, to me, and it's obviously up to you guys, it makes sense to maintain that sense of flexibility for an accessory apartment within a structure. If it's an apartment within your owner occupied structure, you're going to use your interior of your space in whatever way you find suitable.
right.
yeah, I agree. I'm just wondering why is the definition, why did they come up with this regulation or this public act? What's the basis behind this? Why are they limiting?
Had nothing to do. Oh, just kidding.
I'm just trying to understand
Don't
Alvin,
forget, I
why
worked there for
it's like
6
that.
years.
Why would they? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Whoops.
I just want to make it known to everyone that not only is there a number 3, which sets the maximum, there's also a number 4, a number 5, a number 6, a number 7 after that.
So we should be reading that whole public act, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I definitely will read it tomorrow in the context of this discussion and this definition, and also see if there's anything else we need to be amending within our existing regulations. My feeling is that we don't,
Yeah,
but I will take a look at it sort of with a more specific eye.
yeah, a lot of this is let's just say really wordy. I think we're getting the meat and potatoes with Alvin's 1, 2, and 3, outline. And it does say effective January 1st, 2022, you shall have this in there. So
I'd be,
But we do have in there stuff about accessory apartments and accessory dwelling units. That part we've already covered. That's
But-
what I think that is meant to cover.
But how,
maximum.
I'd be interested to see what the Office of Legislative Research has to say on this public act.
All right, so let's put a pin in this one. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna leave a note to myself here.
Yeah, I just quite, I'm not sure why it's there. I'm sure there's a reason for it. And I'd feel more confident speaking about it if we knew,
Why?
the basis why they put it in there. There's a reason. Brian just said there's 5, 6 different,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just more definition to it. It's
Yeah.
further
Something's
defined.
going on.
Yeah. Interesting.
it depends
Thank
on
you,
what-
Alvin.
Yeah, it depends on what hand you got behind you, the right or the left.
Now, I will say that many outside people in various state agencies and planning groups have seen our regulations and at least informally said, yeah, everything you've got here is fine in terms of the accessory dwelling unit stuff. But we weren't talking about these particular issues, so I will read that public act tomorrow. That'll be my homework. So let's consider this particular issue still open.
On hold.
on hold. All right, so we'll move on for now because I don't think we can resolve that here. Oh, we found an instance of character in the definition for alter or alteration. As applied to a building or structure, a change or rearrangement in the structural parts thereof, the movement of any or any part thereof, or the substantial reconstruction thereof, so as to produce a substantial change in appearance. And I just struck character or construction, because what the hell is character in a building other than architecture? And architecture is appearance and construction. So I think that's a meaningless term there.
Very good.
Also means an enlargement, whether by increasing the height, coverage, volume, or floor area. As applied to a use, means a change or enlargement in the type versus character, area occupied by, intensity, or scope of use, including but not limited to, yada, yada, yada.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Here's another one that Alvin called out in dwelling, two-family, also duplex, a single detached building containing two independent units conforming to the definition of a dwelling. As it currently reads, sentence 2 is, such units may be arranged side by side or on separate stories. And Alvin thought that was confusing and has suggested a single, or so side by side or a single two-story structure. I have suggested another alternative to that, because a duplex isn't necessarily just 2 stories, and you do have a 3-story height limit. I personally lived in a house where my ex-boyfriend and I were the live-in landlords. We lived on the 2nd and 3rd floors and rented out the 1st floor. That's still a 2-family.
It's
at
a
that point.
duplex.
It's still a
still
duplex, right?
duplex.
So my alternative to a single 2-story structure is such units may be arranged horizontally, side by side, or vertically, one above, one below. But maybe that's also confusing. We would just want it to be clear.
Well, I owned a duplex, and I sold it, and it was 1, 2, 3. It was 2 stories, and they were separate. You know, there were separate units, but they weren't. It was one house, and you could cut. You know, you had your door on one side to get in on that one, and so you had 3 rooms downstairs and 3 rooms upstairs on both sides. So that was.
So
That
that
was-
would be a side by side.
That's a side by side.
Correct.
We've got a duplex in the family. It's one on top of the other. 5 rooms downstairs, 6 rooms downstairs, 5 rooms upstairs. It's still considered a duplex.
Right, and I would call that a one above, one below,
One,
but maybe we
yeah.
could call it something else.
Oh, I could go with that. One above,
Yeah.
one below.
Trying to copy this. Doesn't want to let me copy. Copy. Okay. Here's another one from Alvin, suggestion on the definition of farm stand, which currently reads, a structure that is not a permanent building and is used for the sale of seasonal agricultural products. He's adjusted it a very small amount. An unattached structure that is a non-permanent building and is used for the sale of seasonal agricultural products. I think that's fine. What do you guys think?
Unattached to what? What would it be attached to?
Any other structure, I guess, or the ground.
Sarah, are you saying that if somebody builds a shed, I don't, in other words, are you saying that that structure they're using to sell seasonal has to come down every year? Is that what you're saying?
That's what it sounds like to me, Cindy.
Yeah.
Well, that is what we have been using. The definition of a farm stand has been essentially something like not that it has to come down seasonally, but that it is something like a shed or those little, you've seen them.
Stands with a little top on it.
Right. as opposed to a barn, right? Somebody, once it's like your barn, it's not a farm stand anymore. Now you're crossing into it being a farm store based on the way we've defined it. It's just
I
it's
think
just
it's
to
like the
indicate
same
that it's a
thing.
little thing, right? It's a little teeny thing that you can.
Well,
And
most of them would be under 200 square feet anyway.
Yeah. The one I'm visualizing in my head is on, in Woodstock, on 171. Is they have a little stand there, but that stand stays there all winter. They just put a close sign on it.
I think the original definition is fine. I think these are literally saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
not-
I'm
I-
okay with it either way.
Can you imagine Randy taking down his every
Well, that
Every-
is not a
oh.
farm stand. That, if anything, is a farm store,
Well,
or a
I'm-
greenhouse.
just trying to be a little humorous with it, but you know, I mean, if you wanted to go that route, I mean, what do
It's
you?
really a permanent structure.
A farm stand.
Yeah.
Randy. Yeah, I feel that it is too myself.
Well, what do you?
Alvin, why did you specify an unattached structure? What,
Did we lose him?
Yeah, he just bounced off.
No, he's right there. He's right there.
Oh.
Oh, he's back? Oh,
Alvin, I just gotta ask, why the change
there
for,
he is.
Well, most of them I've ever seen, they're just not attached to the, you don't put a foundation, you don't put a concrete pad. They just build a structure like a little shed and up it goes and it's open. Small.
yeah, well, it was listed as a non-permanent building. I wasn't sure if you had something specific as unattached structure, that's all.
Like that word, freestanding structure. How about that, guys?
Yeah, that's good.
Yep, freestanding, yep.
Yep, that's
Good.
good.
Got it.
Care of it.
Oh, look, and it's right here too, under
Ah.
fence. So again, and Alvin read his suggested definition of fence earlier. So how do you guys feel about that?
I have another one. If I could share my screen.
You're gonna make me do this again. Okay, yep. I think you already
Well-
have ability to share. Yeah, go ahead.
This was mine.
Oh, we guys said something? Of course you did.
I'll just read it for those that are,
Well, 1 second, I'll be right there.
Hold on, I've got to throw somebody on mute here.
Oh, hi.
Got to find them.
Are you lacking a legal?
all right, fence shall mean a structure erected for the purpose of separating properties or enclosing or protecting or screening the property within its perimeter. A fence shall not include construction site barriers or a chain link fence enclosure wholly within the property to which it pertains and which conforms to the setbacks for an accessory structure and which is used for the purpose of containing domestic animals, which does not exceed 7 feet in height.
That's like poetry to me, Brian.
That's another use.
Yeah, so I have another intent with this one, but I will refrain from saying what I'm trying to do there, but the word screening or protecting it could be used, but yes, this is what I like. I wanted to make sure I talked about fences within the property for domestic animals because I feel people do that all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Especially
what's-
for dogs.
Is there something wrong with that?
No, I just wanted to point it out.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Something else I have to do, Brian? Just kidding.
Well,
Sorry.
how do your fellow commissioners feel about this as opposed to what we have? I actually very much like this.
I think this is fine.
If I could reach through my screen, I'd give Brian a tap on the shoulder.
Thank you very much. All right, T, I'll just email you this, okay?
Yeah, because I can't copy and paste from your share screen, so just forward that over to me. All right, and you want to stop your share so we can go back to the other. There we go. I think we're closing in on it here, guys. All right, and Alvin also suggested a new definition for overall architectural design. As you'll see in my sidebar note, it appears to me that this was intended to be a swap out for character, but we've already looked at character and we're swapping it out individually for what we really mean in each section. So I don't think we actually need this.
I agree, Tara.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, so let's just bloop.
Boy, the secretary's been real quiet.
It's all going good, Mr. John B.
I accidentally logged myself out, but I'm back. Here we go. Okay. So now the rest of this is the design guidelines. So we're actually
Interesting. Where'd you get that?
Yes, store.
I thought you were supposed to buy baseball cards.
We did buy baseball cards. A lot of them too.
I
I
want some
have-
baseball cards. Where's those baseball cards?
I don't know. I got to find this person.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, trying to get it.
See if we got some good baseball cards anyways.
Yeah, what's that guy from the Angels? I want that guy's card.
I still have no idea who it was. Okay, whatever. It's resolved. Okay, so and at this point, it's all just swap outs for characters. So Appendix A, design guidelines. It is the intent of the town that development will contribute to economic growth while retaining its historic and rural. This is a place where I've swapped out aesthetics for character.
Yep, that's good.
All right. The commission encourages all potential developers planning projects in Thompson to review this document and then schedule an informal review prior to the submission of any applications. These preliminary discussions serve to better align plan development with these regulations and the architectural profile of the community instead of character here.
Excellent.
That works.
Okay. Overall architectural design, the architectural style, compatible and look at, there's one I missed.
Well,
I'm just gonna actually, because it's a parenthetical anyway, I'm just gonna strike that.
never said you were perfect.
Sadly, it's true. The architectural style, height, roofline materials, and proportions of such buildings should be noted when new buildings are designed. Exterior modification of an existing structure should respect the rural, again, aesthetics of the town instead of character here. Additions to existing buildings are encouraged to be compatible in size, scale, color, materials, and architectural profile with the town or reflect updated architectural styles compatible with those elements. Everything makes sense there?
Yep, that's good.
All
All
of this.
right.
Yep.
Facade should be articulated to reduce the massive scale and the uniform impersonal appearances of large retail buildings and provide visual interest that will be consistent with the community's architectural profile and scale. Again, taking out identity, character. So architectural profile and scale. And then a grammatical correction, which is unimportant. The proportions and relationships between doors, windows, and other building elements should be related to a human scale and should be compatible with the scale, rhythm, and architectural profile of the surrounding area. Buildings may be either traditional in their architectural style or a contemporary expression of traditional styles and forms. Just as a reminder for everybody here, these guidelines are prescriptive in the village district and suggestive everywhere else. No requirement to follow them, but having them gives particularly commercial developers a sense of what they're going to have an easier time getting to pass. To maintain the architectural consistency of Thompson instead of unique character. Franchise architecture, building design that is trademarked or identified with a particular chain or corporation and is generic in nature should be minimized unless compatible with the rural nature of Thompson. Rather, they should enhance and complement the traditional New England architectural styles present in the town as opposed to the rural character. Lighting should be in a style that is compatible and complementary to the surrounding architectural style. And I just didn't even suggest a substitute for character there. Exterior lighting fixtures should be appropriate to building design and site location and the environmental needs of the town as opposed to character, because lighting has an environmental impact in that it should be downcast. Symbolic and historic three-dimensional signs that enhance the rural aesthetics of Thompson are encouraged. Parking lots, when appropriate and not detrimental to safety or commerce, should be visually buffered from streets and adjacent properties using earth berms or landscape screens. Buffering materials can include trees, shrubs, and fencing that matches the local architectural styles. And then oh, look at that. That's not even a page we need. Last item. Instead of what currently reads, to protect places in the town that lend a unique character to the specific setting, I have suggested the alternate phrasing, protect the unique landscapes and natural places, e.g. special open space, rare vegetation, scenic water features, wildlife habitat, etc. in the town. Anybody?
Works. No, works for me, Tara.
Sounds good.
Everybody else happy?
Yeah,
Done.
Okay, so the only thing we need to revisit based on this is I'm going to go back and just bump our definition of accessory apartment against Public Act 2129, because I did misunderstand what Alvin was getting at by citing it earlier. I don't necessarily think that we need another subcommittee meeting for that. I think if I just change it and bring it to you guys in the regular meeting,
Yep, sounds good.
I think that's okay, but that is up to you guys too. If you really want to meet to discuss the definition of accessory apartment, we can do it.
Just put it under business, but an item of its own. So we can discuss it before, like at the end, right after, before commissioner comments, after commissioner comments. You know what I mean? We don't need it in that area. It's up, you guys decide, but
Well, at the July meeting, you'll be accepting it for public hearing, which means you won't be discussing it. So the discussion would then happen in the public hearing. But if I just create
the correct
any
verbiage.
edits to that definition based on my review of the Public Act, it'll be in the draft that is a part of the application for public hearing. It will be part of what is published for public comment. And then during the public hearing, you can further discuss that item. Is that
Okay.
is that satisfactory?
That's satisfactory, Tara, but I would, if possible, could you send me that before the meeting?
Yeah, I'll send it to everybody before the
Okay,
meeting as well.
Yeah, so
of
that I
course.
can read it before, so it's not just a cold reading when I get there.
Yeah, just like I always do. As soon as I
Okay.
have a final draft, before I post it to the public, I'll send it to you guys and then turn right around, PDF it and drop it on the town website. So we can, and that'll be the quote, what we call the locked copy, meaning I won't make any further edits to it from that point until the public hearing. When the only edits that'll be made are specific suggestions, like we can't leave it open-ended at that point.
So
and
when
then
are you planning the public hearing for this, Tara?
August.
No, you can't do that. Because,
Why
well,
not?
because you have to have an application for July.
Right,
Well-
so I'm gonna make the application for July before the end of the week. Now, once I have a completed draft.
Yep, sounds good.
I don't think that, I have to think about that. I'm gonna think more on that and let you know tomorrow. I don't think that can be done, but Let
All
me
right,
think
if
about it.
there's some
Well-
other way that we have to do it, we will, but we have to adopt this for August. Or at
Okay,
least we have to adopt the FEMA thing for August.
right,
Well,
so
You don't have to, when does the FEMA legally do?
So
change.
they're making their changes on September 7th. And the initial mistake I made was because they were doing their adoption on the 7th. The logic to me suggested that that meant once they had made their changes, then we would make our changes based on that. But FEMA directed us to do exactly the opposite, to make our changes before the new maps are adopted. That doesn't make any logical sense to me, but that's what we're being dictated to do.
Is that legally written in stone?
Yes.
I mean, are you gonna be fined if we don't do it that way?
People in town could lose their flood insurance.
why don't we just create a special meeting, one meeting, no more than 15, 20 minutes in a special meeting for that one item. Then you can do the application and everything that night, and it's in
Well,
for the July meeting.
I think Cindy and I can work that out tomorrow.
Yeah, you guys talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, we
yeah.
can. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we don't have to figure that out here. It either is or is not correct to accept it for public hearing in July. If it is, we will proceed that way. If we determine that it is not, we will create the alternate strategy.
Okay, all right. Yeah, sometimes I make comments and then I take, 2 hours later, I think about it and say, okay, this is what I meant, so.
Exactly.
Okay,
All right,
Okay,
guys.
Tara, I just had one question.
Yes, sir.
So just to be clear, I know we've got some people in the audience here. I just want to make sure that, that what we discussed tonight was the only things that were brought forward over the past year in regards to the regulations, right? Asking for clarifications or, this was-
Normally, when we do an update, that is the case. We've compiled things over the year. We were gonna skip this year, and then the FEMA thing came down. So the only thing that we had recent active suggestions on was that fence thing. So we did include that. And then Alvin reminded me about the requirements related to character. So that's why I went back and did that. I mean, that's getting caught up to something that was passed in 2021 by the state legislature.
I just wanted to make sure, we do discuss and, talk about other suggestions from citizens, so. just to be
Yeah.
clear.
We can always talk about those if anybody wants to take that up. Like if something gets raised in public comment, for example, that some commissioner really wants to discuss as a freestanding item, I would say that that's something you should send to Cindy to ask her to add to the agenda as a discussion item, even if you don't take action on it. Or if it's something that's substantive and requires hours of dedicated discussion, then yeah, we can always do a subcommittee meeting.
That's what the subcommittees are for, is just to get everything, discuss everything, get it hacked out, and then you just send the pigeon along for the next meeting.
Right, and that creates the consensus document that we take public comment on it for, because
Correct.
the sausage has been ground in the background to make sure that we're legal, that there's consensus from the commission, at least enough consensus to present to the public, and then we can take more public comment. Otherwise, it just gets too unwieldy.
Okay, thank you.
And that's worked pretty well thus far.
It has, yep.
Anybody
So-
got anything
Dave.
else?
There you go, Dave, you got it.
Just I was a little late coming on. Did anyone did Dave give a update on how John Rice is doing? Or does everyone else know about it?
I did to the commissioners, Randy. I can talk to you later on if you want.
Okay.
I was asked to to speak to the commissioners alone. I don't want to public
Okay.
comment right now, but I'd be happy to entertain any commissioners who ask.
Okay.
Oh, so we can call you and you can give us an update. I didn't even know, I just found, I'm just hearing about it, what you just said now. About
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah, so let's to preserve his privacy, let's
Yeah.
keep that not
just
here,
keep
but-
it out- Just keep it out of the meeting.
Okay.
So nobody's got anything else? I guess I will entertain a motion.
Motion to
You
adjourn.
got it.
Aye.
Motion, John B. seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
You
Bye.
guys
Bye.
do good work. Have a good night.
Great evening.
Good.